And we'll do one more from a slightly more difficult angle. So we're going to have the cranium egg shape. It's going to be a center line here. That's going to tell us where that jaw is going to be. And then there's going to be a center line in the front, but we're not going to see it too much, but it will have a kind of defining effect there. So let's go ahead and start with the egg shape. I'm going to do this much smaller than the other ones. We have a center line here coming this way. Imagine this like we're looking up at a blimp or a zeppelin. Just going to sneak in that wireframe to really help us with that form. All right, and from here, since we know that the center is about where the jaw will be, if we just go over here, we have the underside kind of like this in perspective, because notice that this is at that angle, and it goes upward, and it kind of has this form language. If you can draw this with the egg, everything else will kind of be so much easier. So go ahead and fit that right into place. And now we can use that for our guide for the rest of the drawing. So we're going to look for that line of where this is. And in perspective, let's see, that's the center line on the bottom. This is about halfway of that blimp. So this would be the halfway mark. And this is that kind of 1/5 or 1/4 spot where the line for the cheekbone will be. So it's about right here. Okay, it goes all the way around. And from here, we can do a nice C shape. And by the way, when we put this C shape for where the cheekbone is just over the cranium part, it's on top of this part of the jaw. So it's not behind this way or too forward. So it's going to be a nice little C shape there. And that gives us kind of the C shape over here for where the eye is. And then we can take all this information and simplify that down to another curved shape like this. Now I did make a mistake, and I made this part way too low. So we're going to go ahead and just erase out a little bit. Be something like that. All right, so let's kind of figure out the center line from the top. So the front view, the center line is going to be something like this. It really helps to kind of trace and figure out where the form is. So we're going to do that, bring it forward, just lay in that quick shape of the nose, and come forward here with the top part of the jaw. And then the lower part of the jaw goes inward like that. And then outward again for the chin. Okay, nice little curve there for the teeth. And then the bottom side of the cranium does something like that. And if you're having trouble drawing heads and faces from all these difficult angles, go back to the skull. The skull will kind of teach you everything you need to know about angles, light, and all that stuff of where things should go. All right, let's do this one because I find a really interesting negative shape there from this angle. So again, we have the cranium about this fourth line. That's where the zygomatic will be. There'll be a C shape here, C shape there, C shape here. On this half, we're going to give us, it's going to give us the line of where that jaw is. It's going to come forward, and the center line is going to be doing something like this, forward, back, and forward again. And this C shape here in perspective On the other side, we'll kind of do something like this, kind of like a reverse parentheses again. And the brow ridge, cheekbone, nasal cavity, line for the teeth. So it'll look something like that. Not quite that, but something similar. All right, so we have the first egg shape. All right, the first center line going like that, all the way down. We're just gonna use that later for the jaw. And about a fifth away, that's where we're going to put the cheekbone. But first, C curve here. C curve there. It's going to be in perspective like this, of course, for the other eye. Little brow ridge. The nose will be doing something like that. We're going to go ahead and sneak in that kind of jaw shape. Okay, now we can get in and get a little bit more detail. Brow ridge, frontalis, which is the front part, the forehead part of the skull. And now I'm looking more at like the 2D angles of everything. And I drew the nose way too far down. That's fine. And let's get that nice kind of curve, this cool negative space that we have on the side there. And then outward, inward, and outward again. Okay. And kind of indicate the teeth if you want. And move it over. Now we have that skull in that perspective.